like to focus our attention on the recent notice of rulemaking and proposed changes to the pre-merger notification form requirements and instructions. So this new proposed rule would require submission of substantial additional documents from what is currently the status quo, including draft agreements and term sheets as opposed to just the final proposal for review, information about creditors, minority shareholders, officers, directors, and information on labor markets, data about workforce, including geographic information about employees, and details about prior penalties and findings by the NLRB. Is that right? Among other things.
Yes, we issued a proposal of suggestions for additional information that we'd be getting. Another key area would be foreign subsidies. So Congress told us to get information about whether firms that are looking to merge are getting subsidies from China or other countries.
Thank you. But in summary, this proposed rule would substantially expand the types and volumes of documents and information that are being submitted as part of this pre-merger review process, correct?
That's right.
Okay, and we also know that this rule, this new rule, if adopted, would substantially affect the time and the cost associated for entities who want to participate and make submissions under the pre-merger review process, correct?
Yes, people would have to comply with the new form, which is seeking additional information.
Right, and your agency, in fact, has estimated that this would increase by over 100 hours the time necessary to compile compliance documents to make this submission, and in some cases, in some of the more complex or larger cases, even much more than the 100 hours, correct?
These are some of the estimates in the NPRM, yes.
Yes. And the internal estimate also identified a cost estimated of $350 million impact for the change in the rule for compliance. Is that right?
That's on the higher end. I mean, I will say a lot of this will depend on the complexity of the transaction. If you're seeing a merger between two fairly small firms that don't have any, complex holdings or that sort of thing, I imagine it would be much less.
But you just raised a very interesting point, and it was one of the things that I wanted to ask about. So if we know going in that the time and the cost now associated with this pre-merger review process, the time's going to increase, the cost is going to increase, won't this affect the businesses that are at the lowest end of the reporting thresholds the most? They would be the least able to incur those costs and time without it affecting their overall margins?
So again, it really will depend on the complexity of the merger. If it's a fairly simple transaction, I imagine it'll be much easier to comply. I should also note, this is all about what firms need to produce on the front end, and it's our belief that by getting more information on day one, that'll allow us to more efficiently and effectively administer the laws in ways that could create more certainty for businesses on the back end.
But at the conceptual level, the large corporations, the ones in fact that I believe you're probably the most concerned about, the very largest corporations are the ones who are the most capable of saying, yep, let's bring in our outside counsel and spend couple more 100 hours, or let's allocate additional costs to go through this process. They would be the ones who could most easily absorb this change as opposed to the smaller entities at the lower end of that threshold. Now, let's go here. So by expanding the types of documents, by the types of information that you all are reviewing in assessing whether a merger should be approved and allowed to proceed, you're really expanding the bases upon which the FTC could choose to approve, seek more information, or disapprove, are you not?
We're still squarely focused on whether the merger may substantially lessen competition or tend to create the monopoly. That remains our legal standard. We're seeking
How is it that some of the information that you're requesting, though, such as demographic information about employees or information about shareholders and officers, how would that relate back to that core mission that you all have been pursuing prior to now?
So issues relating to officers or things like potentially, overlapping directorates, those can affect, for example, Section 8 of the Clayton Act in terms of if you have interlocking directorates. So those are some issues in which they're squarely within the confines of the antitrust laws.
So let me ask this then. The proposed rule, it's something that you all have developed in essence because you believe it would have a significant impact, correct? On mergers, on the health of the economy, on businesses. You're pursuing this because you think it's meaningful, correct?
We're pursuing it because we think it'll allow the FTC to administer the laws that Congress has charged us with more effectively and efficiently.
So you believe it's consequential?
Go ahead.
We
Last
think
question.
it'll meaningfully enable the FTC to do its job, yes.
But without a specific mandate from Congress to engage in this behavior, correct?
I disagree with that. The Hart-Scott-Rodino Act allows the agencies to get information on the front end when firms governed by this law are required to do so, and we're acting pursuant to that authority.